and we are doing the 10 for this week. As you may know, this series is giving tips and skills and abilities for making your games amazing. I am the Game Market Guru, and I've been doing this for quite some time. So we are, I believe, live on both. Hang on a second. There's the button I'm looking for. Yes, we are definitely live now. So, the quick and dirty of the 10. These are the epic memory making tools that a game master should bring to the table every time he plays to make sure that his players have an absolutely awesome time every time. So, the first thing that a game master has to bring to the table is the ability to read the room. And let's go ahead and go to our visuals here if I can pull that up here, and here we go, and boom. All right, reading the room. That means not only knowing who all is at the table, but what games they like, what they expect to be doing in the game, and maybe even what's going on in their lives. Believe it or not, the real world tends to leak over into gameplay, and so therefore some days players just want a release of the tensions and energy that they have during the day. Other times they are looking for vengeance against an unnameable foe, and so therefore they want to crush whatever monsters you put before them. Other times they are just laid back and just want to enjoy the scenery. So you want to definitely be able to read your room, because in doing so you get an idea of what they're going to want from the game. Of course, this also means that you need to be able to set the mood for what you have in mind, because yes, the players come to your table because it's your game, but you need to make sure that you provide them the environment, the experience that they want in the way that they want it. Some people are big on visuals, like the lighting in this scene, or they're looking for subtle or not so subtle hits that things are going to go bad, hence the word doom or whatever. Being able to set the mood is really important, because if you want the players to experience exactly what you have in mind, this is the way you accomplish it. The next you want to do is create the connections. And what this means is, yeah, you've read the room, you found some players are in it for the blood and guts, and some people are in it for the story and the drama. Let's try to build a consensus. Let's build a way for these players to interconnect so that they are all going to get what they want out of the game, because if they are each one being, if you will, fed on what they want to get from the game, they're going to help the others achieve their own objectives as well. Of course, this is really effective if you link it with what I call the foreshadow or predestination phase of the session. When players are telling you what they want to have accomplished during the day, it's simple for you to throw in one or two little tidbits of the story you have planned, the idea of what they might be facing, because when you do so, you give them the opportunity to kind of feed into your story their own impressions of what that drama will encompass. Of course, when you do this, you also want to demonstrate the dangers of making a mistake. One of the biggest challenges to role play games is for the storyteller to convey to the players the inherent danger they place themselves in. If week after week they fight monsters and they hardly ever take a hit point of loss or whatever, that's usually not a good sign, because then they start to take your adventure for granted. So what I recommend is doing a little pre-combat damage to them, whether it be trips and traps, or maybe a side encounter that will let them know how bad things are, or even if it's simply somebody that comes running back from the site, all bloody and battered, and half their life points are gone, and maybe even half their face has been ripped off or whatever. These kind of dramatic things add to the awareness of the danger and make it more visceral, more real for your players. Next, let's see here. I like to call this adapt the dance to the circumstance. Maybe your players came to the table ready for action, as in the case of the very nimble individual that you're seeing there on the right. But maybe a few of them actually are just there for the giggles of it, and so therefore they're coming in more like the robot on the left. So you want to be able to adapt the dance to the circumstance. That's my way of saying that the players will tell you their style, their skills, and take advantage of their knowledge and this knowledge that you have about them in the story. For example, there are times when you'll have one or more players who have a penchant for always rolling high. If you need a die roll made and you need it to be high, well, by golly, you ask them. If you need it to be low, well, you may ask them anyway, just because that way you get the drama of a missed roll. But you get to know what I'm saying. There are players who come to the game whose mission is to enjoy themselves and not think about what it means to the others. So make sure that you adapt your encounters and your engagements in a way that makes it fun for all of the players, and if not for all of them, certainly for most of them, and not at the expense of others. Of course, this means we need to focus on the fun of the game, and sometimes that's the die rolling, sometimes that's the really dramatic wood carving die rolling tray you see in the picture, or even the kind of cobalt blue that you see in the dice here. Whatever is enjoyable to the players is what you want to bring to the table and focus it. It's really important to realize that you are there to direct the story. Dice are nice, but the discussions and decisions make for shared fantasies and visions. If you want your players to remember the game, it has to be because of the things that they actually decided on. It should never come down to a die roll. Now, once in a while, you'll have somebody who says, "Oh yeah, remember that time that I rolled three 20s in a row?" Or maybe you remember the time that I fumbled 7 times, or whatever. Those are all great, but that's not what you want them, or what they even really want to remember. What they want to remember is how narrowly they missed being obliterated by the evil villain of the wooden staircase or whatever. So we want to definitely focus on the enjoyability of the game, but we also want to realize that the story is what's going to be remembered. Now, this is a good question I'm going to ask, and of course I'll answer it, but the question is, do we hold to the story the way we wrote it, or to the story the way the players are making it? Sometimes it seems like a tough decision because you've got all this work and investment spent on putting together a particular villain or a particular encounter. But sometimes the players will drive right off the map. As a matter of fact, my belief is that as soon as you draw a map, you're asking for your players to leave it. That's why, although I have a map, I do very little hex by hex travels therein, because ultimately the players will find ways to walk off the edges of any map. So make sure that you try to hold on to the specific and minute details that the players found interesting and reinforce those, and downplay, or not necessarily disregard, but move past the parts where they don't have necessarily help the story. I mean, if they critically wounded the bartender when they weren't even supposed to fight him, maybe you forget the fact that they critically wounded him, but do remember how much of a good sport he was after that and how they were able to get the information that they wanted. You really kind of have to learn to go with the flow. Now, when you do that, realize that what you're going to do is you're going to learn to go with the story you get, not with the story you started with. Get the story the way the players want it, and they will remember it. Yes, maybe it was a lot more fun to build a villain that would have beaten them to death with radishes, but if they choose instead to get stuck in the corn stalks, and the real damage done to them is in that portion of the adventure, just go with it. It's okay. It's the memories of the session that you want. You want the players to go, "God, what a great game that was." You don't necessarily want them to go, "Oh, yeah, I remember we really did have fun over there with the carrots, but now we're moving over to the celery." You want to definitely work with the players to accomplish the objective, which is to have a lot of fun and make some serious and classically connected memories. And one of the ways you do that is accentuate the positive and downplay the differences. So when the players are in the groove and they're making really awesome die rolls and the story is going the direction you want, don't let it stop. Okay, it wasn't what you wrote. It's okay. The point of being a role play game master is to build a really compelling that you didn't want to trigger now. That's okay. Just move with it. Just let the story go. Remember that direction that the players go in is your responsibility, and you do this by direct direction, which is go this way or you die, which is not necessarily fun for them, or you do it through guidance. Yeah, maybe you want to go this direction instead of that direction, or maybe you do it with terminology. Oh, you could go that dull, boring, kind of routine way, or there's this really exciting and adventuring and death-defying course if you go this way. Uh, you could also use vocabulary. You could use terminology within the setting. For example, a very good friend of mine was GMing, and he had literally drawn to the edge of the map, and the party members insisted on continuing in that direction. But he didn't want to take away from them the story, so he said, "Well, great, you're in a 10 by 10 room, and I want to give you some options. So there are three doors, one straight ahead, two to the left and right. But I just want you to know you're going the wrong way." Of course, they would pick a door, and he'd go, "Okay, you're in a 10 by 10 room. There's a door ahead of you, and one to the left and one to the right, but you're still going the wrong way." I believe the way the story goes is that went on for about 45 minutes till the players finally realized that he wasn't going to run anything if they weren't going in the right direction. So instead, you want to work instead to build up your awareness and conscientiousness about what's going on in the game and play to what is working. Don't try to make it something that it's not. Ultimately, and at the end of this, you want to uh, remember that history is the history you remember. And legends are built from misremembered experiences. I'm not saying that people intend to forget. I'm not saying that it's not absolutely true that people will on occasion remember fact after fact. But the reality of it is, if your story was compelling and things were fun and a player remembers rolling 3 20s, they can't quite remember when that happened. That's when you go, "Oh yeah, remember when you were up against the hideous beast of Agmar and I told you that you needed to roll da 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 and you did blah blah. Don't you remember how exciting that was?" Direction of a player occurs both at the table and after the table. I know I just revealed a big secret to the Nikos world. I think most of my players already know it because they come back week after week after week, and I hope you will as well. This has been the Nikos the 10, making epic memories, and I hope I've helped you build your future adventures so that the players will enjoy them as much as you do making them. And I am Jonathan Albin, the Game Market Guru. Thanks for watching, and make sure you watch the live streams on Wednesday night at 6 p.m., Cauldron Triumphant, and Friday, the Fellstone Chronicles at 7 p.m., and we're working on Sunday to be something brand new, so keep your eyes open for that. This is Jonathan Albin, the Game Market Guru. You guys keep it rolling.